Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of End to End. Today, we're going to be talking about one particular thing, pony, and not a whole hell of a lot else.
Yes.
Yep.
As of time of recording, and hopefully, if we actually get this up on time, not too long after, was the release of the long-anticipated fan-made episode Double Rainboom.
Bang.
Yes, the three of us have had it.
Bang.
Yes, the three of us have had a
Enthusiastic
chance to
lightning.
watch this, extremely anticipated and extremely hyped video. So, what did you guys think?
Well,
I still loved it.
yeah, AR liked it, but I think um if I'm with
I'm
you,
weird.
Duhad,
Yes.
well, that
You
too, but
are.
Then
um
again, I watched it with the drunkard.
yes, I know, but that was I don't think that enhances or detracts from the experience at all. I think that's just you watching it with a drunk person.
Actually, you'd be a bit surprised.
Actually, it
You
probably
can go if you're wondering what. Yeah.
yeah, if you're wondering
No,
what we're
but
talking
If
about, you
you
can go and watch the video over there. I'll put a link
uh,
somewhere.
on the
yeah,
lightning
actually,
round, actually, you can go
I think it's
find.
gonna be a little bit before it goes up. But
Hmm.
yeah, go and watch
Yeah.
the lightning round because they're going to watch this. They were going to watch. Me and Carl
Blind.
were actually both going to be there, but it got late, so I had to leave. But Carl's
Yeah.
still there, and he's gonna have a ton of fun with that.
Yeah. Now,
But
Yeah, we get to watch it blind. So
hmm,
there's someone named Antoinette, and he gets drunk.
okay. Right now, if we get down to the right, okay. So I'm not entirely sure where to start, to be honest. I think I'll start
In
out with. Should we start out with the birth of this project?
yes,
It started out at some point. I don't know exactly when the whole project was conceived.
I think it was early 2012, maybe.
Yeah, early 2012. Let's say that was it.
Maybe summer 2000. I think it was summer 2012, sometime around then
Mm,
it was summer of
ish.
2012.
Spring,
yeah.
summer, somewhere
I
there,
don't. I don't
early-ish.
think it matters too much,
Yeah, it
as
doesn't
long as
matter.
it was
Point
spring
is,
or summer. Yeah. The point is that it was conceived, and ever
It
since
was
then, a
conceived.
lot of people have been anticipating it eagerly, as Duhad said at the beginning. Now, contrary to what we were going to do before, I think just to start us off, we should go through the good points and the bad points, because this is going to be a kind of critiquing process that we're going to do here, which we don't do very often. So, should we start with
We
good or
should.
bad points?
let's start with a good point. Let's be charitable.
Yeah, okay. Well,
I
we
thought we can go bad then good, but okay.
No,
actually,
no, no. Let's be
yeah,
nice. Let's start with the
okay.
good.
Well, the good points were that the animation overall was good, and I think we can all agree that we really did like the animation in at points, and
Yeah.
overall in its own sections, it was very good.
Hmm.
And even better was the musical score, as I've put
Oh,
it down
love the
here, was
music. Yeah,
top notch,
I
and
love the music.
it had
music was
very good
very good.
musical
Yeah,
references as well.
full Back to the Future theme when they had the double fire trails.
That was great.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right. Do we have anything else on the good list?
Unfortunately, not. And with
I
this is
Okay.
saw the
where
TARDIS.
okay, you saw the TARDIS, but that's comes into one of the bad points actually. Now, as you can see, this is going downhill fairly quickly. The bad points that we found were uh,
Actually, oh, okay. I
uh,
was gonna say that the Rainbow Dash voice actress, she sounded really close to Rainbow Dash.
Yeah, when she
that's
wasn't,
true.
phoning in her performance, but
Yeah, but we'll
Yeah.
get to that in a second. Right, so a blatant overuse of references is number
yeah,
one in place
uh,
of real humor. I
yeah. I
felt
was going to make a running count when I started watching it, but I kind of lost track after Trollface Companion Cube, TARDIS, uh,
that
you know,
face in the
We can
moon.
show
see the TARDIS too.
the monster face of the moon, the various
Hmm.
characters in the Nether Realm zone, the whole Powerpuff Girls section, the
Hmm.
God, the
It's
Back
just
to the Future fire lines. It
it
goes
just it wasn't needed, and I think if they'd taken, like we were saying before, if they'd taken some of the good references and put
chicken.
them in,
It was
people
a
would
chicken
have. Yeah, Scootaloo was a chicken,
and
um,
adopted.
That
and
was
adopted.
hilarious. I love that.
There is no meme we will not think.
That was great.
Mm. But the thing is that
That was a good use of that reference.
if they'd taken a few choice ones, like maybe the Back to the Future Fire Trail and the chicken one, that would have been enough. You don't need that many references in one episode. It's just not needed. And when you replace real humor with loads of these references, like we were saying before, it gets kind of boring. You say, "Oh, look, there's another reference over there. Oh, yeah, there's another one."
There's no one over there.
It goes
Someone's
from
hiding.
it goes from like, for instance, if you take the fan reaction to Derby, it goes from "Oh, there's Derby, she's speaking. Oh my god, this is amazing," to "Oh, she's doing it again. That's perfectly, you know." We've seen that 100 times before. It's just you don't need that many references in one episode, and I think that was one of the down points. Uh, Next point is underuse of voices in onomatopoeia roles, so grunts, gasps, things like that.
Any character who was not on screen or directly talking was pretty much not making any noise. Like there were a number of scenes where people, like Twilight would do face palm essentially, or Rainbow Dash sneaky around or something like. And there's like all these points where there should have been sighs or little bits of talking or
Hmm.
anything, but no, like any scene where the character isn't directly saying a line, they're totally silent. It's like watching Fantasia.
Yeah.
And again, the music's good enough that it kind of supports that, but it feels really weird to have so many characters being so silent when good voice work is such a big part of the show.
In fact, actually, what is the name, AR? We're going to ask our resident filmmaker here. Of because I always forget this.
I
The
don't
different
know.
types of sound in film. There's two. There's one that the characters make, and then there's music and stuff. Where it's like there's two different types of sound.
So you mean there's like production sound and then there's all sound production? That is actually two different terms. Production sound and sound production are two different things actually.
Well, I mean, like, you've got
But what are you
ambient
asking for
sound.
exactly?
You've got ambient sounds like footsteps and things, and then things that are added in afterwards, or it's all added
Yeah,
in
sound
afterwards.
effects,
Yeah,
and then most things, especially in animation, are put in
It's like
afterwards. You put them in while
yeah,
watching it.
but in this case, I think we're talking about the difference between dialogue and ambient noise.
it's like diaphonic or
Yeah,
something, and there's two different words for it, but I can't.
yeah, it's something like that basically. But once again, that'd be implied into the script and also the way the actor
Hmm.
portrays the character
Yeah.
is a big thing. Also, when the actor really gets comfortable with the character, they start becoming it. And when you really put yourself into the scenes, like I do this sometimes when I do some random improv session, I literally put myself in the scene and I would act out how I would act out. So I have my slight sighs, groans, and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
once again, when you become the character, and it's written into the script as well.
Yeah. I mean,
So
for instance, I felt like at the beginning where Twilight is working on the potion, I felt like the level of concentration she was putting in, if it had been the show, and I know it wasn't, but if it had been the show, I would have expected more sounds of concentrated exertion sort of
Yeah,
things, you know.
you would have expected to hear like mm,
Also, I don't think there was a
like that.
single footstep in the whole episode, was
No, I
there?
don't think so. No. Another
yes, there
point.
was when the giant beast stepped up to
Okay,
the dog. That was a
Okay, yeah,
footstep
that was
sound.
one, but I mean like general footsteps,
That
not
was
a
one.
monster.
He stepped more than once, lightning. I think he took like three
I
total
meant like
steps and then
one.
flew into a building.
Well, exactly. Okay, so three
point is,
footsteps on a monster, which was kind of obviously going to have footsteps.
I think actually a good point of this is the fact that they did a direct reference to the show with Fluttershy leading a group of ducks in the show, chickens in this episode,
Hmm.
and in this episode it's silent. There's music playing over it, but Fluttershy's just sort of walking backwards with the chickens. Then she gets blasted by the rainbow and faints.
Hmm.
In the show, while she's walking backwards, to help characterize her, she's constantly talking to the ducks. She's kind of guiding them, being kind, trying to make them
Also,
feel
the
comfortable.
chicken should have made noises.
Yeah, the chickens didn't
Yeah.
make noises. Fluttershy didn't talk, and when she fainted, there was no gasp. It was just sort of like, oh,
Instant
something's wrong.
faint.
Fall over, no
It
sound.
it was more like a music video actually in that respect than an actual episode because
Yeah,
the music conveyed more emotion than the talking did. Okay. Next
Yeah.
point we had was animation discrepancies. Now, I noticed this when I watched, they released the first half of the episode at some sort of convention or something. I watched
Yeah, I saw
someone's
that.
recording of that, and I saw even then that you could tell. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that some animators are very bad and some are good, but it means that, I mean, I wasn't expecting like DHX or Studio B quality, but you could physically tell when one animator had stopped and another one had begun because the animation still had like it wasn't necessarily massive gaps in some places, but it was just
No, it wasn't.
noticeable and it
Every,
detracted from the whole experience, I felt.
yeah.
was fine with me. You're more into art though, so it didn't bother me as much.
Yeah, maybe I'm
So
just being like because I know humans have got very critical eyes anyway and they can tell differences very easily, but I just felt that that was something that I noticed quite a lot in the thing, like
Yeah.
particularly the bit with all the science equipment that Twilight has. That was animated really well, and I liked that. But then, for instance, I know this wasn't directly connected, but later on, the Fluttershy scene, the walk cycle for that seemed a bit off. And I don't know what it was, but it's just that slight off-putting thing which can detract from a scene.
Yeah, it's actually a line from the reviewer, Mr. Plinkett, Red Letter Media. It feels a bit actually appropriate here, and it's he occasionally will say like, yeah, here's the thing, like essentially he goes, like, here's the thing that's like a relatively small discrepancy, like something that you aren't even really necessarily noticing, but it's you know to quote him word for word, it's you may not notice it, but your brain does.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of thing. Like, there's a lot of these little discrepancies which you don't necessarily like just pick up right on the conscious level, but they're noticeable. Like they're noticeable enough that even if you're not picking up on them consciously, they're taking you out of the experience and basically telling you this is not the show.
Mm.
Yeah.
Also, AR, are you playing with magnets again?
No, I'm playing with my car keys.
Okay,
they're,
that's
they're
fine.
like switchblade car keys. You push a button and the key flips out, so it's like you can stab someone.
Okay, please don't. That sounded
Anyways.
very sinister when you said that, but yes, and stab some.
Anyways, back to nitpicking with you.
Mm.
Back to nitpicking with end to end.
Well, as much as I think sometimes we do nitpick, and we probably will in the more upcoming things that we have to mention, I think this is just general stuff, and it's like while like some of these things are very small, as is like a universal truth with everything, loads of small things add up into one very large thing, particularly when it's bad because negativity sticks out anyway. So it kind of, you need to make sure you nail all of these little things, otherwise the thing that you've been nailing up will fall down very quickly.
Yeah.
You see what I did with that analogy there? Okay, anyway, weak writing was the next one. Some of them seemed out of character, and the humor sometimes was a bit forced.
Yeah, there's a line that actually I read in one of the comments. I was actually hoping to find it. I was just looking over to try and see if I could find the guy who originally posted it so I could credit him. But someone was kind of just pointing out like Rainbow Dash's lines in this. Like if you actually look at her writing in the show, she has a consistent style of speaking, especially when she's annoyed.
Mm.
And this didn't follow that at all. Like it was like her lines are too contracted. The way that it's delivered is off. Like the whole thing is just not quite right on a writing level. And while there's relatively minor mistakes, again, in a 30-minute long production, it's the kind of thing where even if you're not noticing it directly, your brain is telling you it's not right.
Mm.
This isn't on, and it takes you out of the experience.
Yeah.
And again,
I wouldn't be bringing this up as a major bad point if it wasn't for the fact that the guy who created this, the guy who hyped it up like crazy, and the guy who's basically using this as kind of his college magnum opus, senior project, his big thing. He's the writer and the director.
Mm.
Any writing mistake, like the writing mistakes are on his head, and the mistakes with like the actors giving bad.
I don't think he's going to school for writing though.
I know, but then why is he being the writer, and why wasn't he animating?
And more importantly, why is it that on his bio thing he points out that his goal with this and in general is to become the head director and writer on his own animated series?
In fact, if I quote it exactly, his ultimate dream is to write and direct his own animated television series. Now, not to sound harsh, but like we're going to discuss with some of the voice actors and things, if you can't do this properly, and I mean, it's good that you made mistakes now because at least it won't happen like I've seen in some television series where it does happen for real, but I'm not saying this isn't real, but yeah, unless you can get this sorted, then having your own television series isn't going to happen.
Yeah, people look at
trial and error.
Yes, but here's the thing: like this is gonna be the thing that a lot of people, like right out the gate, are going to be judging you by, and in particular, they're going to be judging you by how well you directed and wrote it, since that's the thing that you credit yourself as doing. This is not going to sell. No one's going to buy a series from you if this is the thing that you're going to be, showing them as your huge 100-man, super project that took you over a year to make.
Because including him and the assistant producer, there's 105 people I counted, and like we were saying before, I completely
You
understand
went
because
and
I've
counted?
yes, I
Yeah.
did. I actually went and counted. Now, um, because we were talking about it, and I was saying, like, I know that directing is a difficult job. I know people who are the directors of projects, and what they do is immensely difficult. But that is why you have the assistant director. There's no producer on this team either, which Duhad was surprised about
Which
because
would automatically make him the producer as well.
I know,
Kind of,
but
but the thing is, you need like producers are not just disposable suits who represent corporate interests and are only there to be buzzkills to the auteur artists. They are damn useful parts of the production team that
They're
you know
important and
yeah
major parts of the whole production.
yeah like again like I made this point with lightning earlier when we were talking about this before the recording. And that is, if you think about like one of the more, kind of iconic cult series, kind of created by, pretty much like, masterminded by like one dude, the Evil Dead series, Sam Raimi right out
Never
of
watched it.
college. Okay. Well, here's the thing: Sam Raimi right out of college with like $2,000, raises $2,000 and gets, a couple of his friends from college to make a film, which is now considered one of like the great cult classics, and two very successful follow-ups. Here's the thing: a lot of people, when they think about those movies, think of them as being the the work, essentially the creative result of the work of Sam Raimi, the director, and Bruce Campbell, the star. But the big thing is the third part of that triumvirate is Rod Taperty. I'm sorry, I fucked up his name. Rob Taperty, who is the producer, who was instrumental in everything that they managed to accomplish. Just as much of a creative, part of the creative team as the other two. And like if it wasn't for him, it wasn't for a good producer, you wouldn't have had this. Like you need a producer; they are very important. And I
mm,
can't help but feeling that this, whole project suffered because he didn't, he just kind of went, oh, whatever. Director, we need that. Writers, we need that. Animators, voice actors, assistant directors, all good. Who
mm,
needs a producer? I'm running this show. It's fine. A director and producer are the
Producers
same
are
thing.
for organizing.
Yeah, like
mm.
the director's the same thing as a producer anyway. I'm just going to, make this is my project and I don't need anyone else
Mm. I
saying,
think
They're
I th
not the same.
the thing is though, I think organization is what was needed here, and I'm not saying it wasn't organized because they made it and it's still
Yeah.
presentable.
yeah,
But the thing is that it could have done with more organization. We'll come on to that with our next point. The direction of voice acting was very poor.
yeah.
Very
There is,
weird performances with little oversight, underacting in scenes which require emotive performances. Now, if I could just throw my 2 cents in here at first, because this is what we've been talking about before, is that um, this could be accredited to the voice actors, and it could be their fault if the lines aren't delivered in a way which is convincing. But at the end of the day, I think it kind of, again, comes down to the director, because, like we were saying before, the recording, if your voice actors aren't doing a good enough job, and yes, I know you're not going to get the exact voice actors from the show, but particularly emoting and things like that, if they can't do that, then you need to either tell them that, like tell them to do the lines again, or say, I'm sorry, but this isn't working out. We need to find someone else. And I mean, I've worked on projects where I was the guy who had to go and tell people that they hadn't got the part and stuff. And yes, it's not particularly nice because it can be disappointing for people, but it needs to be done if you're going to make a product which isn't inferior.
yeah. If you're solely using this as an example of what you can do as a director, which is what he's doing, he's trying to use this as his example of what he can do as a director and writer.
Mm,
If you're doing that, you really do have to be able to basically say, I can do all the parts of being a director, including making the difficult
mm,
decision to, let people go or at the very least, basically get on their case about, fixing things up. Like I don't necessarily do that all my, that great job with that sort of thing myself. But I'm not
God,
trying to be a director. I'm not trying to be a, like a professional director who's going to be making his own
well, you're not a
original series.
student making a senior year film in SCAD, which is a
No,
very prestigious college.
yeah, no. Again, it would be understandable if it wasn't for the fact that this is really the type of project that you can't afford to be, like it isn't just a fan, like a fun fan project that these guys threw together because they love the show. This is him putting a ton of work into a very prestigious college's final exam,
Mm.
and this is his final exam, which means he's also going to be using this as an example of what he's going to do and how he's going to sell himself once he gets into the real world, because the final project at a school like this is what you're going to be selling to people in order to try and get a job.
Mm.
If you screw this up, you're not going to get a job in the field of directing and writing.
Mm.
You know,
I'm still slightly confused. Like, I don't know how this particular college course works, but with animation, I'm guessing it's like with filmmaking, where you do a kind of course or do a section of work in each field. So you become a director, a producer, an animator, and a storyboard artist, and things like that. I'm guessing that's how they do it, because otherwise, if it was just him going to school to learn how to animate, then he shouldn't have even been writing in the first place. But that's like a completely side thing. I mean, I know it's his project, so he probably
Yeah.
should have been writing, but yeah.
I don't
Um,
know how it worked over at SCAD, so.
so I won't like critique that or anything. Um, the next point is actually I'll do this one first, which is pandering crossover fan fiction vibe, or
yeah.
PCFV as I called it just before the show started. Um, because well, Duhad, if you want to explain this one, because I get it, but you were the one who came up with it.
Yeah. Basically, the whole thing, when you get into the second, like the first half of the episode, and I'm going to keep on calling it an episode because that's what it is. It's structured like that. The
It
first
is
half of
an
the
episode.
episode was kind of mediocre. It's not that bad. Like, there's some bits that are obviously kind of weak, but there's some decent animation. The story, while it's a little bit weird, is all right. It's not terrible. Then you get what, and again, I'm going to jump ahead a tiny bit here, but if you look at the first half and then you look at the very end when she gets back, and you put those together, you have a relatively continuing story. The inciting action is her drinking the potion. The rising action is her causing havoc. Then she the big dramatic twist is her doing the double rainboom and blowing up the town, and then
Yay! They're all dead! That's what
yeah,
Lightning said.
and then the falling action is them cleaning up the town and her learning her lesson about destroying things.
Mm.
But Duhad, I hear you saying, if you took any sort of creative writing courses, aren't you missing the climax? Isn't that part of the thing? It's like, yes, I am missing the climax, and you know why? Because the climax, as well as a good portion of the rising action, all comes in a weird crossover where Rainbow Dash ends up going through a time warp of old Cartoon Network cartoons into Powerpuff Girls to have a
Yes.
crossover adventure with the Powerpuff Girls, where first the Powerpuff Girls get defeated by a monster that Rainbow Dash then just swoops in and destroys.
Mm. In fact,
Going like,
actually,
oh,
Well, it doesn't destroy. She
that
just
that was one of our
beats it around a
points,
bit.
which was the resolution is all about the effects of what the double rainboom did to the town,
oh
and
yeah,
it
no,
com-
okay, yeah, I'm
yeah.
getting
Sorry, I'll just like throw this one in here
it.
in the middle of it, but it ignores the other dimension aspect completely, and as we put it, therefore making it a redundant part of the story because it's got no overall impact, and the lesson doesn't have anything to do with that. It's just kind of plopped in there.
Yeah, I'm about to get to that, but thank you. Yeah, I'm going. That is a point I want to make. The thing is, she beats up this monster. She basically shows up the girls at their own game, and it's like, okay, so wait, it's like Rainbow Dash is
Well, the monster
better
says,
than.
"I'm sorry." She's like,
Well,
"Okay, that's better. Go on now. You can go away."
Hold on, that's not
Then they
the.
beat the pulp out of the monster.
Yeah, I'm actually getting that. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. First, they do this whole like, oh, Rainbow Dash is better than the girls because she's stronger and better at beating up monsters than the superheroes. Then they do like, oh, and she's also morally better because she lets the monster go away, and then the girls go and beat the crap out of it, and then the girls basically turn villainous and start trying to like steal Rainbow Dash and show her up until she eventually has to escape. And it's like, is this like a crossover where the Powerpuff Girls are the villains, showing how much better Rainbow Dash and MLP are, which is weird.
Hmm.
And then she gets back, and as Lightning said, that's the climax is Pinky rescuing her. and then the falling action is like the town getting repaired and her having to live up to like her. She doesn't do anything in cleaning up the town. Like she learns her lesson about doing dangerous things, but she's not helping the town at all. She's just getting bandaged up while the rest of the town is being fixed from her
Mm.
mistake by everyone else who doesn't seem to
Yeah.
care.
Mm.
And it's like you the resolution has nothing to do with the climax, and half the rising action has nothing to do with the other half of the rising action. It's just a
Mm.
random out of nowhere crossover fan fiction right in the middle of a kind of
Mm.
generic episode.
I mean, like, I could be like some really out of order, like British grumpy critic, and say something
He's a
along the
British
lines
grumpy
of
critic.
that.
That is what he's now labeled as.
Well,
The
the thing is,
grumpy British critic.
I could like,
New YouTube channel.
I think there's already someone called that, so I can't take
Yeah,
that name. But
total rabbit, the
Wait, there
cynical
is?
bit.
total ribbit, total ribbit, frog now. But yes,
Total
the point is that if I was some sort of really horrible person, I could have just said, "Oh, well, the only thing it has in common with the actual show is the mistakes that were made in plotting the thing out, because there were a few of them in the actual show." But no, I just don't understand why the storyline doesn't really add up, and I feel like we were saying before, they postponed the release, saying we don't want to make an inferior product, and then it came out being, should we call it an inferior product?
it's a bit sloppy, and yeah, like the thing is, like even if you ignored, like even if you assumed that the fan fiction weirdness was like this, the guy legitimately just going like, "This is a great idea. This is the story that should be told."
Mm.
Even if you assume that's what he was doing,
This is the story of a girl.
the poor voice acting, yeah, and again, like a bit that I actually want to bring up because we actually kind of missed this before, but there's a bit where Twilight is trying to catch Rainbow Dash
Oh
as she's
yes,
going super fast,
I was going to bring that
and
up.
yeah, there's this awful part where she's just like, "Oh no, she's flying too fast. No one's ever flown that fast before. You have to stop. Why aren't you listening to me?" Like, wait, she's a
Mm.
mile away, going faster than the speed of sound.
I was going to say, like, the thing that I pointed out, I know science doesn't technically apply in this universe, but it's the fact that it's a sonic like rainboom. She's going to be going faster than the speed of sound. So even if you did shout to her and she was only a couple of meters away going at that speed, the sound surely wouldn't reach her because
But
she's
even
already
yeah,
gone
No,
faster than
not
it
really.
and here's the thing, even ignoring that, she isn't standing a couple meters from her shouting. She's several miles away,
in the
talking
air.
in a
Yeah,
talking
exactly.
yeah, and Twilight several miles away, talking in a normal speaking voice, and then getting pissed off that Rainbow Dash doesn't hear her when she's
Why
talking in a
didn't you
voice
hear
Mm.
me?
that she probably wouldn't have heard if she was on the other side of town.
Mm.
If she was just like across the street, like literally, like in these type of shows, that talking voice level, like even if she would reasonably hear it like from like a couple of meters away, that's the type of talking voice that you expect from the, oh, we're talking while she isn't here, but while you can still see her. Like it's a voice that
Mm.
is almost guaranteed to represent to the audience the other character can't hear them because they're clearly not talking to them.
Mm.
But then it's supposed to be that she is directly trying to communicate with a character 100 miles away going a million miles an hour.
Mm.
What?
Well, that's the thing. Like, I'm just as a disclaimer here because I know someone will rage about it if they come across this. I
Probably.
haven't done
Everyone
physics.
will.
I
Yay, rage!
I haven't done physics for a while, but just working off common sense, I'm guessing that if something is traveling faster than the speed of sound and you're shouting after it, the sound will not reach it because the sound cannot go as fast as the thing going faster than the sound is going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, air is thinner up there and it's just far away. So,
Again, the thing is, it's just like it's a really bad line delivery, and it's not a great sign that the actress was, really kind of phoning that in pretty badly. But
hmm,
that's the type of thing that, as a director, that is exactly what your job is supposed to be to prevent.
hmm,
To jump on that type of thing and basically go,
hmm,
hold on there, no,
hmm.
do it again.
I mean,
No,
this is what we were saying before. Is like I used my British phrase that I coined, which was it felt a bit like a cop out, and that's what we were all kind of. So, or Duhad and I were saying. I'm not sure whether you were
Wait, that
saying it
you
now.
coined?
I coined it from my own language. Um, but
British is not a
ba-
language.
English
no,
is though.
no.
Um,
It
but the
is.
point is that basically what I mean by that is what we were discussing before, particularly with the voice actors. It felt like he was just given the lines, and despite the fact that he wanted it to be like full accuracy, I know he said 100% show accurate animation, so I won't say that he said 100% show accurate everything. But the point is that if you're going for 100% accurate animation, surely you should go 100% with everything else. And it felt like he got the lines in and they weren't absolutely perfect, considering this is his senior year film, and he just went, we'll use them. And even if he didn't do that, that's the vibe that we're being given, and that's not a good vibe to be given. Even if he
Yeah.
tried his best, then, we're still getting that vibe, which means something went wrong.
Mhm. And again,
And
like
Yes.
the Fighting is Magic guys had the same thing going on, where they're like, "Oh yes, we are going to delay because we want to get out the best possible product." From what we saw of their product, it was actually pretty good.
mm,
This does not feel like that. Felt like a project when that they said we are going to take the time to bring out something that's properly perfect. This feels like they said that and then they just got lines and were like, oh whatever, that's good enough. Just put it in there. It's not like anyone's gonna care.
mm. And if we could come to our main cause, what we think
Yeah.
is that, and this is kind of a summary, all of this probably wouldn't have been so bad if it wasn't so overhyped, because it was like mentioned months and months in advance, and of it being released, and it was claiming to have 100% show accurate animation, which, as good as the animation is, I don't see that in there, and I wouldn't have been so critical of it if it hadn't been like advertised as 100% show accurate animation. And the same goes for the whole fact that, what was the other thing? He
The whole project was being, he sold the whole project as being like, if MLP is like ever were to die, like it is stuff like this, is these type of episodes, is like fan made episodes like this that show that we can do things on the level of the show. Like we can make show quality
mm,
programs of like fan projects. Like that
yeah,
was
he
kind
was
of like
saying that it was like the first fan made episode,
yeah, the
which
first
obviously
full
suggests
fan
a
made episode. Yeah.
standard of quality and everything. And it was the fact that he kind of, it was again this thing where he said, we don't want to release an inferior product, so we're going to delay it. Whereas, as you said, if we compare it to Main Six and their production of their game, they said they were going to postpone it so they didn't have an inferior product, and they actually delivered until they were canned by Hasbro, which
Yeah.
was a bit of a drawback, obviously.
And
But
now they're back.
Yeah, but
yeah,
now they're back. Yeah,
yeah, now
they
they're
are
back again.
they're dedicated as heck, and
Mm,
kudos to them. Like they really are putting in 100%
They had
out
nothing better to do.
product. Yeah, I
mm,
think they actually kind of do. But the thing is, like they are legitimately like they believe in this product, and they honestly, I think, really do want to try and become a game studio, like a proper game studio after this is released.
mm,
Which was their plan for a while. Like
yeah,
not doing fan games, obviously, doing like proper games, but
mm,
like there is the same basic thing. It is a group of dedicated people who want to do this professionally, who are setting themselves up to do something that is on the same quality level that on a quality level that could be expected from a proper paid
mm,
financed version of what they're doing. Difference being that Double Rainboom seems like they just sort of started with that concept and then sort of flagged off a bit when it started really getting tough. And Fighting is Magic has, well, or whatever they're calling themselves now, are really decide to just go 100% whole hog and really went for this.
mm. Well, that's the thing. I feel like it's you can draw a lot of parallels between the two like development teams, and like you were saying, they both want to do this as paid work at the end of it,
Yeah,
but you can see that one of them is lacking and the other one isn't. Now,
yeah,
I don't know why that is, because I still can't pinpoint exactly why this has. I won't say it's failed, because it was still good, but it's the fact that there were a lot of small problems which all added up, and it wasn't as incredible as people were expecting it to be, I don't think. And obviously, it's only early days at the moment. I don't know what the initial reaction will actually be, but there are a lot of people still at the moment that I've seen expressing doubts and things about it. Whereas Main 6, people have been behind that the whole way. It was released, like bits of it were released, people played it, they loved it, and then they were really sad to see it go when Hasbro had a go at it. So, I'm seeing problems occurring on the first day of release.
Yeah, yeah. It's yeah. I don't know. And the thing is, like, it's not that this type of thing can't be done well. I mean, I saw this kind of come up a few times in like on EQD on their discussion of this episode, like when they posted this episode on the thing, and people kind of comparing it with the recently released video, recently as of right now, released video Snowdrops, which
Hmm.
Yeah.
you know, much smaller project, very different tonal project.
Hmm.
Honestly, the animation quality in that was hell of a lot, like lower because it wasn't
Hmm.
nearly as large a team, but they managed to get more emotional resonance, better writing. The animation, while wasn't as high quality,
Hmm.
looked better.
We
Like
talk
they had,
about it in episode 6.
Yes, we
that's
do.
pretty stuff. Yeah,
Hmm.
it'll be a couple weeks.
Dramatic
But
pictures.
just to
Whenever we
just to kind
release
of
that.
just to kind of compare the two, then Snowdrop, it was well animated, and the trouble
Good
is that
art direction.
yeah, it was good artwork. It was well animated, and there were less indiscrepancies with the animation. The animation might not have been full double rainboom, double rainboom
Double
style,
Rain Doom.
but it was
Rain Doom.
even apart from the animation and all of that sort of aspect of it, the whole story had more substance to it. It made more sense. It was more like it was logical. It was the original like problem, overcoming the problem, end resolution. Everyone's happy, but it's got a slight bittersweetness to it. This doesn't really have any sort of foundation to it. It just kind of goes, and then you're left at the end feeling like I'm not entirely sure what just happened, but I know she learnt a lesson, and there was a weird bit in the middle with a giant monster destroying Townsville in a completely different universe.
Again.
It's just all
Yeah,
very out of place and confusing. Um,
yeah. Yeah. Well, again, it could have been a pretty good fan animation, like just like a simple fan animation. The fact that this is such a major project with such a major like such huge backing on the creative side and so much writing on it for the guy personally,
mm,
this is his. I'd like to make a series, and quite frankly, I wouldn't want to watch the series that this guy made if it was going to like if this is what he gets when he makes when he has full creative control, creative and directing and writing control. I don't want to see his series. This hasn't sold me on his ability to make a series.
mm, yeah. I mean, I think we'll have to wrap this up now, but
Yeah.
our overall thoughts are that
Wait, hold on a second.
Yes.
Wait. One last thing, real quick.
okay.
Just because I
Okay.
hate leaving, I hate just bitterly ripping on something that was obviously, real labor of love without any sort of consolation.
Yeah, I was going to get onto
To
the whole
end,
being positive.
to end on a high note before we get into our final thoughts, the end credits and the intro to a lesser extent, and the end credits especially were really nice. They were really,
I love the end
they were
credits.
Mm,
pretty.
Yeah.
They were funny. While
mm,
it was really weird and referential to have all that Powerpuff Girl stuff in there,
mm,
it kind of makes you think that if it had just been like if the whole thing had just been a crossover and
mm,
they'd sold it entirely as that, it actually kind of would have been pretty cool. And you
mm,
know what? It really shows how a crossover between the two franchises could actually be really fun and really really
mm,
cool.
Yeah. It worked well as
So
a
yeah,
crossover.
mm. I
yeah,
mean,
the end credits were a better crossover than the rest of the movie.
mm,
So
I
kudos to whoever made the end credits.
the two like things that I really loved were the beginning credits and the end credits. Like particularly the end credits, which is what we were saying. I feel like this whole production. This is going to be my word of summing up. Um, and then I'm going to have to go. But the it's kind of like a selection box of chocolates. it had some really good bits, whether it be animation or music or the beginning and end credits. And then it had some bits that if you picked them up and ate them, it would leave a bad taste in your mouth.
So you're saying that
But the whole point is it's a box of chocolates regardless.
fan animation is a box of
I
chocolates.
know, but the thing is that
you're gonna
that
get.
is the other thing, though, that the box of chocolates is presented nicely, and people tell you, oh, it's going to be the best box of chocolates you've ever had, and then you find bits in it which are absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, I actually hate most of the chocolates in boxes of chocolates. They're usually crap.
Yeah.
I do as well, actually.
Okay, well, that's not the point. Disregard the fact that nobody actually here likes the boxes of chocolates that you can get.
Actually,
My dad
I
loves
think it's
them.
actually really apt because the thing is, it's a really pretty box that everyone tells you is going to be really good, and there's some bits in it that are actually really delicious. But for the most part, it's just a bunch of kind of nice to kind of nasty
Yeah,
chocolates
it's
that
like,
you
well, I don't
actually
particularly
want.
like this, but no one else is going to have it, so I'll eat it
I'm
anyway.
like, can I have like a Kit Kat bar or
Mm.
something?
Exactly. So, our final thoughts are that while the title and ending and most of the animation overall in its own sections is very good, and the musical score is amazing, the
Yeah.
linking of two different animators' works was bad, and the overuse of references and the underuse of like emotion, like onomatopoeia and emotive things like that, and sound effects like walking and things like that. That was a bad thing because there was barely any in it. The writing wasn't very good, or the direction of voice acting, and the whole like the pandering, which links in with the overuse of references, and the idea that basically the whole bit with the Powerpuff Girls had absolutely no consequential impact on the rest of the story. It just kind of happened and then it was over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Anyway,
I
well,
still love it.
yeah, overall, what would we give? I know we're not really into ratings, but what would you give it out of 10?
personally,
Probably a 7.
yeah, I'm just
Maybe a
saying, right,
6.
yeah, real quick to just to point this out because everyone has a weird, people have very weird rating scales. For
Hmm.
me, 10 is like transcendently good. 1 is god awful. 5 is completely average.
Mm.
I would say that hype aside, like putting aside my own personal biases about how much it was hyped up and how much it disappointed me from that,
Mm.
I'd say it hits actually a pretty solid 7. It's
Mm.
well above average, even to the territory of good, but there are way too many things holding it back, preventing it from becoming great.
And I would say actually, yeah, I'd probably give it a 6 or a 7. And to explain that, it's what you were saying earlier. While we've poked a lot of holes in it, the whole thing was still animated, as you were saying before, as a labor of love by this guy who wants to do this. Now, obviously, as we've pointed out, there are things that need improving on, and some quite important things, like serious things that need improving on. But the point is that he's still got time to do that, despite this being his finishing project, which will be the thing he shows to people when he tries to get a job. But aside from that, he could go on to have his own television series if he gets all of this sorted out. And overall, it was relatively well done apart from the story. I think the most lacking part of it, apart from the smaller things like the voice acting, was the story of it.
Yeah.
Cabral?
Because I mentioned that actually
Right.
because when I was talking to you guys when it was getting close to release day, I said story is my main concern with this
Yeah.
Mm.
because I watched the first 10 minutes like Lightning did on the phone quality
Yeah.
video of the convention, but that was my main concern because I saw it was 12 minutes into it. I'm like, oh, so that's about half the length of the episode. I'm like, half the episode's already been shown basically, and I don't know how the heck they're gonna end the story
Mm.
with something like this. I'm like, what?
Mm.
She just because the place where they ended off, it of course left a bit of a cliffhanger, but thinking logically through the storyline you get for the first 12 minutes, where can you really go with that afterwards? I mean, you can assume some things, but overall, it's kind of difficult to pinpoint where the story would go and what kind of story it is.
Well, clearly,
Now,
the obvious solution to where the story should go is into another universe.
Mm.
well,
Obvious.
yeah, clearly, completely out of left field. I was laughing my head off though. Well, because Lightning was drunk. Anyways,
Not
that
me,
wasn't
a
why.
different
I
one.
was
I wasn't drunk.
yes. The
There's
other
a
one.
different lightning. Okay, yes.
We shall call the other lightning Antoinette because that is actually what we dubbed him. And then in the
Okay.
fanatic fiction, he's like, "Who's Antoinette?" We're like, "You moron."
Okay.
Anyway, look,
Anyway.
I think
Yes.
lightning has to.
I
Lightning
do have
rabbit.
to end it off. But
Okay, but I didn't finish my opinion. I'm almost done. Okay.
okay, throw it out
Anyways,
then.
regardless of the story, it wasn't like you said. It wasn't a good story, and I didn't like it for that. But I still loved it for some reason. I don't know. I just enjoyed it. It was just
That's fair.
nothing made sense. Nothing flowed. I still enjoyed it. It was a fun little piece to watch, and I don't mind watching it over and over again.
That's more than fine, honestly. Anyway, well, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Honestly, if someone enjoys something, I'm glad it exists for the sake of them enjoying it, unless
And I'm hungry.
actually hurting someone.
I
Anyway,
enjoy
yes.
food.
For end to end, this has been Duhad
Lightning.
Rabbit.
I thought you could say I've been cruel, and
Rabbit.
I've been
Other
indifferent.
cruel. By the way, I'd like to just quickly say, if anyone wants to, like, without starting a massive argument, if anyone wants to challenge any of the things that we've said and just
Oh yeah, yeah.
query them in the comments, please do, because
We will be
Yeah.
actively there to debate with you.
yes, okay.
Peacefully.
Exactly. And once again, this is all our opinions
Yeah.
on the thing. You obviously have your own opinions. I have mine. Mine are the best. But you can still state your opinions, and I'll take the time to look at your belittling opinions. So
And remember, if you enjoyed it, it means it succeeded for you. And don't let anyone try and change your mind on that. Anyway,
I'm hungry.
we'll see you all
All right. So yeah.
at a regular scheduled program time.
Yeah. Or else.
Okay, see you later. Thank you.